I'll just use this one. Wow, there's some power in the house today. Woo! Feel that? Yeah, we can applaud that. So let's turn to the person we're sitting closest to and just look them right in the eyes and just say, my God, you are gorgeous. Oh, it's important to remind ourselves of the truth, isn't it? So, I had such an interesting day yesterday. It started off by beginning a new module in the practitioner training program with my Prac 2s, we call them. So they're on the second half of the practitioner program, and we're starting to learn about. We're taking a deeper look in the Course in Miracles, and we're really starting to learn about spiritual mind treatment, which is affirmative prayer that practitioners use when offering prayer treatment for people. And affirmative prayer treatment is really an affirmation of the truth. That's the affirmative prayer. We're affirming the truth. So we're not affirming what we hope to be true, we're affirming what is. And what is God. And the good news is we have no idea how to fully comprehend what God is. And so we don't even try. But we lean into that part of us that does, and we allow that to guide us as we affirm the truth that God is. And we also got to read this wonderful section in Course in Miracles about judgment. How do we judge correctly? And Course in Miracles, what I dig about it sometimes is it's funny because it says you can't judge accurately, so stop trying. In order to judge accurately, you'll have to be able to see in all directions of time and space. You have to be able to see how every action unfolds, all the ripple effects of it. And so what you think is bad, you don't actually know because you can't see into the future. So just stop trying to judge things. Hand it over to that part of you that can see in all directions of time and space. And here's the deal. If you are seeing anyone, your brothers, your sisters, anyone other than perfectly innocent, then you're not seeing them correctly. You are judging them inaccurately. So let's just pause and collectively together think of one person that pops up in our mind that we might have not be seen as perfectly innocent this week. Ready? Go. Okay, I thought of one. And so if we're not seeing them as perfectly innocent, we're not seeing them correctly, right? And so it is our job as people who are interested in deepening our awareness of love's presence through a spiritual practice to remind ourselves of that, okay? So after class concluded, I decided I gotta clean my house. I just felt this like, I've heard those days where like, I just gotta scrub some stuff. And I just thought, I just wanted to like get stuff out of the closet, I'll just make some space. And so as I did that, I decided it would also be a wonderful idea to call my relatives, who we are going to be spending Thanksgiving with, who voted, not like I voted, and explain to them why our feelings were hurt. Not to shame them, not to blame them, not to make them wrong, but I needed to teach them, to let them know why it feels scary for an LGBTQ person. And I talked to them about trauma from the past, about familiar patterns seeming to form, about what oppression feels like, and what the signs are that it might be forming, and why it feels a little anxious, and why people are getting a little worried. And to say that you're just liberal believing hearts overreacting feels dismissive and not kind. And so I was able to have actually really loving conversations with my aunts, who I'm very close with and I love very much. And I said I wanted to have this conversation so that there's just not some hidden resentment at the dinner table when we get together to celebrate what we're thankful for. And for the most part, it went smashingly well. And I did my very best not to go into judgment. I did my very best not to go into blame. And I would say I'd give myself a B++. But what I realized afterwards is wow, I sure had that conversation a little late, didn't I? That's the conversation that I needed to have last week or 2 weeks ago, but I didn't want to seem like I was judging anyone, and so I didn't. So my inability to share authentically created a resentment that I needed to deal with after the fact. And so that was a really good lesson for me, that I'm not interested in holding things in. I'm not interested in people pleasing because I'm scared of confrontation. I'm coming from a place of love, from self-love, and I want to enroll everybody in that vision of love. And love does not always mean that we have to be nice. Love isn't, I remember I had an elder once say, that unconditional love word, oh God, it's like tapioca pudding. I was like, tapioca pudding? I'm like, all right, like soft and mushy and like not, no one actually really orders it that much. Like, nice in theory, but like, I'll take the cake instead. But that's not my experience with unconditional love. Unconditional love takes courage. Unconditional love takes wisdom. Unconditional love takes practice and a willingness to relieve ourselves of the judgments and opinions that create a deeper sense of separation in our life. So I'm standing in unconditional love, and I'm doing my best to demonstrate it in my life. And then after the house was cleaned a bit, I got to facilitate a workshop on conscious dating. And after seeing like all of the demonstrations, and I'm so happy for those of you who marched, I heard that it was a really loving experience, because I have to say that when we take a stand for something, not against something, because whatever we focus on, we energize, we give it strength, and we give it power. So even though you think you're being against something, you're actually giving that thing power if you focus on it. It's the law of cause and effect. Our thoughts are creative. So it's about thinking responsibly, right? It's about thinking responsibly. So I didn't think anyone was going to come to this workshop. I was like, does anyone care about dating right now? But I was open and I showed up, and turns out some people did care about dating, conscious dating. So it is LA. I mean, it is something that we got to address eventually if you're interested in having a meaningful relationship. So really what we did was had a workshop on the law of cause and effect. I taught everybody that, one, we got clear on what our core value was, by a fun exercise, and not one of those values had anything to do with appearance or money. The core values were all about authenticity, kindness, humor, creativity, and all that. So that's a great place to start. Knowing that is that's good to know about yourself, that you're interested in freedom and peace and connectivity. And now let's create a narrative based off of that. So the next step that we do after we get our core value is they're like, okay, so tell me about dating in LA. Tell me about all the wonderful experiences you have dating in LA, which brought you to this workshop today. And they're like, this heinous things they're putting out there. Like everyone's flaky, it's a shallow, sexually confused people trying to make it work, and all this stuff. And you look at this, literally a giant whiteboard full of all of these awful things. I'm like, who would ever want to do this? Who would ever want to engage in this activity? That seems really like self-abusive, right? Like awful. Like, stay home. Like that Netflix is actually the solution to this. And so we erased it, and I was like, what would you like it to be? Because here's what I know. When you believe something to be true, you gather evidence to prove it right. We talk about that all the time. If you believe something is true, you got to gather evidence to prove yourself right so you don't feel crazy. Now, if you are interested in breaking free of a belief system, you have to doubt it. You have to doubt it. You have to stop and say, says who? Says who? And so then we looked at all the roles, like women's roles in dating, men's roles in dating, Is bisexuality actually a thing, or are they fooling themselves? Let's look at all of these belief systems that are out there. Do you have to have gender identity in order to find a partner, to attract a partner? All of the stuff, we just put it out there. We looked at these ideas and these rules for dating, and we got to say, says who? Says who? Your life, the narrative and the arc of your life is completely up to you. You get to decide what your experience is going to be. Because a thought and a belief only affects you if you cling on to it. A thought only affects you if you believe it. And so we can develop the muscles to pause and look at the thought and then ask ourselves, have enough maturity to ask ourselves, am I interested in that belief? Am I interested in it? And if I am not, am I willing to let it go? So how does that have to do with anything that we're going to talk about today? What's unfolding in the world? The topic of this month is gratitude. The overarching theme of the month is gratitude. But I felt it apropos to align all of this into what's unfolding in the country because it's really intense, and I don't want to pretend that it's not happening. And one thing that my colleagues do that I just, God bless them, if I could just help them. There's this great saying that I heard many years ago, and it said, don't get so spiritual that you have no earthly good. And some of the words of wisdom that my spiritual teacher friends were posting on their Facebook and putting out to their people, I'm like, oh, I don't know what good you think that's doing right now. That is the most uncomforting thing I've ever read in my life. People are looking for a compassionate, understanding, ear, let's meet everyone where we're at, right? Let's come together and unify. Let's be honest, let's give ourselves permission to experience and have, be present enough to acknowledge that things are coming up in our minds and in our hearts so that we can not spiritually bypass them, acknowledge that they're there so we can let them out and then we can get to work. Well, it's time to get to work, ladies and gentlemen. I feel as though that we have had, as the Inspired community, we were giving ourselves enough time to express, to share, and we will continue to do that. If I've learned anything about grief, and I feel as though many of us are moving through grief right now. This last year I had a very significant person in my life commit suicide. I walked my sweet dog that I've had my entire adult life over the Rainbow Bridge. And I've had to really allow myself the beautiful experience of grief and grieving. And it's a wonderful healing experience. And what I've learned about it is that it doesn't happen overnight. I believe a lot of us, and in America, we have this idea, it's I gotta get over this, I gotta get through this, let's get this, what am I gonna be doing, when am I gonna shake this off? But when you give yourself permission to say, you know what, I might never get over this, I might never get through this, there might be, every time I think of this person, I might feel some sadness, and that's perfect, and it's beautiful. It's okay, it's part of this wonderful human experience we're all having. These wonderful emotions that we can honor and feel, and not judge as bad. Right? So that's a little food for thought in the process of moving forward, of being productive. What I'd really like to talk about today, knowing that, keeping in mind everything that I just shared, how our thoughts are creative, what we focus on persists, that we are in charge of the narrative of our experience. We truly are, based on the thoughts that we decide to believe. I'd like to talk about something else as well. And this is the nature of withholding. The nature of withholding. You will never experience what you withhold from another. You will never experience what you withhold from another. So really think about that. If you are unwilling to listen to someone else, I don't know how you expect them to listen to you. If you are unwilling to offer someone compassion, I do not understand how you expect them to compassionately listen to your perspective and your experience. So, what we generally withhold from others is the one thing that unites us all. Because we are so inclined to develop a unique identity that sometimes, and oftentimes to the ego, experiencing oneness and similarity feels threatening. But right now, it is time to look for what unites us. And so we can't hold on anymore to that unconditional love. We can't withhold our love from anyone. From anyone. We have to be willing to transcend our judgments and opinions in order to be in an open enough space to listen. Because if I learned anything from this last week, it's that we're not listening to one another. Apparently, we're not listening to one another because there were voices that were not heard that stood up loudly, that began to scream because they did not feel heard. And I judged them as being bad and wrong and uneducated and unevolved and unloving. But I'm so loving and evolved that I'll pray that you get enough intelligence to understand how wrong you are. And then you can come to my party. It's a really productive way, really wonderful way to make deep connections, folks. When we feel confusion, we oftentimes look for who is to blame for this upset. I feel upset and I need to know who is to blame for this. Who is to blame? And so we go again in energizing our differences, what separates us, who's wrong here. I know I'm right and someone's wrong, and their wrongness is making me feel upset. And so again, we withhold our love because we're looking for blame. It is a confusing time, folks. And I wish that I could stand here with such clarity that I could speak in factual, give you some really gnarly facts to chew on and be like, it's all good, it's all good. I do believe it's all good. I admit that I can't see the good. I don't know why this is unfolding the way it is, but I do know that it is unfolding the way it is. And here's something else I know, that when we do not accept reality, we suffer. The truth is, it unfolded the way it unfolded, period. If you want to argue with that, you're going to suffer. It unfolded the way it unfolded. Now is a call to action, but the action is not to fight. And there is this emphasis on we've got to fight, get ready to fight, we'll continue to fight. What if we can transcend that fight? What if we can listen more? What if we can listen deeper? What if we can love greater? Because love is not tapioca pudding. Love is powerful, and love is transformative. And love can stand firmly in the highest vision of equality, of oneness, and say, what you are saying, brother, that I love, what you are saying is hurtful. What you are saying feels dangerous. What you are saying feels disrespectful. And I love you enough to point that out to you. I love me enough to take a stand against it. I love me enough to do what I can to prevent you from following that belief system through. And I'm going to continue to aim high. That was one of the most brilliant things I've ever heard. Aim high. The only thing is when they go low, so we are already in judgment, telling them that we're superior. But what if we all just aimed high? What if we aimed even higher? What if we were able to transcend these parties, transcend the borders, and just act as a family? Now, here's what comes up in our mind. Well, how's that going to happen? How the hell is that going to happen? And I'm going to tell you. I have no idea. The good news is, we don't have to know. That's how God works. Listen, if we are intentional enough, if we become so disciplined to focus on the vision, to stand in the vision, to be and demonstrate the essence of love in our lives, beginning in our homes, beginning with our friends, beginning at our work. If we can demonstrate that, if we can stand in that, we will see transformation. We will see a new possibility express itself. It's not about fixing something that's broken. It's about creating something completely new. but it requires our diligent practice to stay out of judgment, to stay out of opinion that brings us down, that energizes us versus them. Can we be respectful and loving enough to share why without casting blame? If we withhold anything, it will be withheld from us. Defensiveness is the first act of war. If we believe that there is an enemy, it has to present itself. The enemy will show up. But the light of God shines on them just as much as it shines on us. God does not withhold its love from anyone. We withhold our love. So allow us to be more like the Creator, right? We practice experiencing the love of God by practicing aligning with God. Something that is far beyond the infinite nature of it, is so beyond our ability to even comprehend, but we can allow it to begin to work through us just by asking, by being willing. And so honor the feelings of grief that arise. Allow it to be beautiful. Allow your anger to wake you up to what is truly being called to be expressed right now. Pause. Ask yourself, is this what I want to experience? Before you open your mouth. Post. Listen to this, y'all. Post with intention, not for attention. Become mindful in how you treat other people. Become mindful of the media sources that you are paying attention to. Post guards at the gate of your mind. Post guards at the gate of your mind. Be mindful of what you let in. Because remember, if those messages get in and we start to believe them, we're going to start experiencing it. Right? You can't ask the question, how could a loving God create this? God didn't create it. We did. We have to take responsibility for everything that we're experiencing. And when we are able, and it's our lack of responsibility, it's our inability to take responsibility that are the root causes for deep racism. The root causes for homophobia and violent crimes, hate crimes. It's an inability to accept responsibility. Well, I'm interested in taking responsibility for the world that I'm experiencing. I'm interested in taking responsibility for my life. Just like it's your responsibility to take care of your health, right? You do what you can to live a healthy, productive life. Well, let's do what we can to live in a healthy country, a healthy state. What can we do? What can we stand for, not against? How can we give more, not withhold? If you are ever feeling a lack of something, ask yourself, what am I withholding? Where can I give more? It's a powerful time. And like Alan said so beautifully, in the times that feel dark, it's our opportunity to expand our vision, to look forward. And that's what we're talking about staying focused on the vision. What is it that you would like to see? Remind yourself of that. Show up to whatever you're doing with that in mind. Keep your attention firmly focused on that. As you continue to stand in love, as love, and through love, we can create the world, the country that we're interested in creating. What country are you interested in living in? How are you going to show up and make that happen? How are you going to take responsibility for it? Because it's up to you. It's up to all of us. And you know what? we do need to roll up our sleeves. We need to roll up our sleeves and ask ourselves, how do we love more? How do I show up? How do I listen? Even when it's really hard to listen. And we'll end on this. You know, I've talked about how responsibility is our ability to respond in love. Our ability to respond in love. And a course would say that there's only ever two things happening. It's an expression of love or a cry for love. And a cry for love oftentimes looks like hate. So how are you going to respond for a cry for love? Are you going to respond lovingly? Or are you going to return fear with an act of fear? Are you going to return an act of hate with an act of hate? Or are you going to be willing to love more? To offer what is being withheld from you? Offer more until they're ready to share. Gotta love ourselves. There's that great agape song. So simple. I love myself so much, so I can love you so much, so you can love you so much, so you can start loving me. This is our anthem. So first, let's begin by honoring our experience, by deepening our ability to love ourselves, so we can see the truth in them, so we can love them, those that appear to oppose us, so they can experience that love, and we can bring the light in the darkness, and they can love themselves. And when they begin to understand who they are through our demonstration, they can love us back, because that's how love works. Love transcends the appearance of separation, it transcends the appearance of darkness, and it shows the truth. So allow us to love ourselves so much, so I can love you so much, so you can love you so much, and you can start loving me together. You ready? This is our work. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. And since the theme of this month is gratitude, I'm going to invite everyone to contemplate and think of 3 things that you love about America. What are 3 things that you love about America? Oh God, I am so grateful for my freedom. I'm so grateful to live in this country that allows us to express our feelings, to allow our voice to be projected. So let us offer up any fear, any resentment, any blame, any regret, and place that on the holy altar in our minds so we can alter our perception of it, and to use it as an opportunity to align with the highest vision, the highest possibility of what is available to be unfolded and expressed now through us. We allow ourselves to be open channels for peace and love and wisdom to flow freely. We take a stand in love, as love. We release our attachment to needing to know how this is going to happen, and we trust that it is happening because we believe in the law. And the law is that what we think upon, we shall experience. And so we shift our attention and our focus to love, to unity, to freedom, to peace. We allow these qualities to flow through us in our own lives. We share these now. We become more willing to express a greater practice of generosity, knowing that we are tapped into the infinite resource of good, and it can flow through us, so there is no need to withhold anything from anyone. We extend our hands. We follow. We go forward with an open heart, with an open mind. We become representatives of peace on this planet. We make it our job to demonstrate the power of love, the strength of love, the transformational qualities of love, starting with ourselves so that we can share it with whomever stands in front of us. We become willing to see the innocence of whomever stands in front of us, knowing that the light of God is shining on them just as much as it is shining on us. That the nature of God is impersonal, so there is no favorites. Everyone is welcome. Everyone has the opportunity. We are willing to give everyone the opportunity to be loved by us as we deepen our commitment to love ourselves. Thank you, God. Thank you, God, for guiding So God through us, God through us, we are willing. We may not know what the next step is to take, but we are listening. Guide us, support us, and allow us to be courageous enough to stand, to go forward as representatives of love. And in grace and gratitude, we release this word. We dedicate it to anyone who is suffering today, anyone who is afraid, anyone who feels unheard, anyone that feels unseen. We see them, we hear them, we love them, and we are grateful to do so. And so it is. Amen.